There's been this 20, maybe 30
Right.
years. There's
Standing
been
at
this sort
the
of
edge of your
erosion of
cubicle or-
control over.
Pardon me? Standing at
And
the
it
edge of your
began, I
cubicle?
mean, I didn't begin, but.
I'm
I mean,
excited to do that.
You can just
Bury
see
my head in
right of
work.
ways with, they adopted.
I feel like
adopted
there's
the
paint
upper
everywhere
east
on me. I've been doing nothing but.
Your house is going to be just so up to date and beautiful. You ought to have a party
side.
for it.
There you go. Yeah, yeah. They've already got a place for the Christmas party, so.
All right.
Radio.
You guys about ready?
Yes.
All right. Good evening and welcome to Heartland Township. This is the Planning Commission meeting of Thursday, October 24th, 2019. We'd like to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Keith, would you take roll, please?
Sure. Larry Fox,
Here.
Jeff Newsom.
Here.
Mike Mitchell.
Here.
Joe Kalani.
Here.
Sue Grissom.
Here.
Tom Murphy.
Here.
Okay, roll call is complete.
All right. Thank you. Item 4, approval of our meeting agenda.
So moved. Support.
We have a motion from Commissioner Mitchell, second from Commissioner Newsom. Any changes? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next up, item 5A, approval of our September 12, 2019 meeting minutes.
So moved.
Support.
We have a motion from Commissioner Grissom, second from Commissioner Voigt. Are there any changes? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next up, item 6, call to the public. Anyone? Okay, we'll move on to item 7. And this is 7A. This is site plan application number 19-008, Heartland Meadows Bus Stop Shelter. Are you with them? Come on up to, why don't you grab a seat here?
Oh, this is just for me?
Yes. Well, you're very important. Everybody has their place. So what we're going to do is we're going to let Troy, our planner, introduce your proposal, and then we'll have you add any comments you like, and maybe we'll do some question and answer.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Troy?
Let me start off by maybe explaining where the area is. It's in the Heartland Meadows. This is a zoning map of the entire township with 23 going north and south here and 59 kind of going east and west. I'll zoom in. If you go out from that main intersection, out 59, Heartland Meadows is in this area over here. It's a residential community. I've got a aerial here. I'll zoom out a little bit. M59 at the top of the image right here, and then their drive comes on in, somewhat of a little S curve there to it, and its main boulevard that comes in, and then their clubhouse is right here. What they want to do is, there's a number of children that live in this development that ride a school bus, and they desire to install a school bus in this general area, and I've got a site plan I can show you. Let's see here. I can go to, I had a different plan. Oh, here it is. So this is their plan. You can see that S curve that I showed you as it comes on in, and then here is their proposed bus stop. That you see right here. You can see the clubhouse facility, and this would be a shelter for the kids as they get onto the bus. And I think that about sums up what the project is. The reason that this is here in front of you is this whole development was approved through a consent judgment. And if you recall, not too long ago, we had a request by this development to do a park pavilion, and it was agreed upon that the proper procedure to do would be to have them make an application to the Planning Commission and present that in somewhat of a formal process, and that then we'd move forward with it. So we're going through that same process that Park Pavilion recently went through for this bus shelter. And with that, I'll be available for any questions or comments you might have.
All right. If you'd like to introduce yourself and add anything that you would like to add, we'd love to hear it.
My name is Brian Gennard. I am the contractor with Gennard Quality Construction, who's been asked to put this structure together. It's very simple. It's just a shelter for the kids getting on the school bus in the morning. There are designs attached, and whatever the procedure requirements are, we're here to make sure we live up to everything you expect. So as soon as we get this, we move on to building permit, and hopefully we get something in the ground before it freezes.
All right, sounds good.
So it's, I think, kind of a nice thing that they're doing for the kids. It keeps them out of the weather, so.
All right. We do have a very small review letter here from staff dated October 17th, so we're just going to take a look at it. I'm going to start on, it's page 3 in the upper left-hand corner. I think it's packet page 11, so right there, site plan review. So as Troy went through and gave us all the history, we just have a few tiny little things to take a look at here, and then any questions you might have. It looks like their building height can be 15 feet. They're complying. They're set back from their principal building. They're required to be 10. They're 135. The building location that they're proposing can't be in the front yard. It's west of the clubhouse, so it's not in a front yard. All our reviewing agencies have no comments on this. So as you can see, it was kind of a light site plan review. Does anybody have any questions for him?
I just have one. I saw that you have downspouts and gutters. Are you going to do that on that shelter? I didn't see it in the, elevations, but I did see it noted on the plan. And I'm only thinking if you do drainage, just not going onto the sidewalk.
If we did do down, they would
Make sure it
discharge
goes
out the
out, yeah,
back
that's
towards
my
the
only
the
comment,
grass
just
area, the
safety.
mowed grass area.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a hip roof, which means
Yep.
it would have to go all the way around. There would be
Right.
a lot of water that would discharge. It would go out the back,
Okay.
so.
Okay. Any other questions?
I have one question. If
Absolutely.
you don't mind. On the first page of your notice here, item 1, the applicant shall adequately address the outstanding items. What are the outstanding items, if there are any?
They're,
I
I'm
don't
assuming they would be
think,
noted in this form,
yeah, and in
yeah,
this
this
case,
is the letter.
and I didn't see
Yeah.
it.
yeah, I don't think in this case there really are any particular
Okay.
items to note. That's just a standard
Standard, yeah.
condition.
Library item. Okay, that's cool.
Okay. Any other questions then? If not, this is the new format in our staff review letter, so you'll notice your motion, if you're so inclined, is on the first page of the review, right there, just below the title.
Move to approve site plan application number 19-008, which is a request to construct a bus stop shelter in the common area at Heartland Meadows, located at 13598 Highland Road.
Support.
Okay, any further discussion? We have a motion from Commissioner Mitchell, second from Commissioner Kalani. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Congratulations, thank you.
That didn't hurt at all.
It took longer to fill the form out, the application, didn't it?
Guarantee that. All set?
Yeah, we are.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
I'll let you finish all your other business, and then we'll leave you.
All right, we'll let you do that. Next up is item 7B, and this is our future land use amendments, and the discussion is on the multiple family, and probably the best thing to do is, Troy, why don't you just take us through this agenda item, if you don't mind?
Yeah. So earlier this year, a subcommittee had presented some potential changes to the multifamily designated properties on the future land use map. They'd been asked to look at multifamily on our future land use map, and the residential market analysis that was done indicated that the township could support X number of units over the next so many years, and that we had a lot of land designated as multifamily, and just look and see if there's anything that could be done. So that committee looked at it and identified 4 areas that could be changed. And when that was presented to the Planning Commission, we had just completed a retail market analysis. So the Planning Commission decided, well, let's just put this on hold. Let's wrap up the retail market analysis, and then we'll discuss both this amendment as well as the retail stuff. Then we had a joint meeting with the board, and I presented to that joint meeting both the retail area and this residential area that we never really followed through. So this is just to kind of follow through and kind of go through that a little bit more in depth. I felt bad that I had to jump to the board before we actually had some discussion on that. But why don't I get into those 4 areas? I've sent in the packet a brief description and then a lot of information on the 4 areas. So why don't I start off by, we'll look at, this is a future land use map. This is the current future land use map for Heartland Township. Area 1 is up here by Clyde Road, and this orangish, brownish color is the multifamily designated area. So in your packet, I included a site map and a property card of each of these parcels, and you can identify how many acres there are from each of the property cards. This is currently in a multifamily category. This is an area that the subcommittee had looked at as this might be an area that could be changed away from multifamily. Area 2 is this area here. These are much smaller parcels. There's a lot of single-family homes on those properties currently. Again, I included a property card and a site map of each of those properties, and this is the second area that the committee had identified that maybe this could be changed away from multifamily. Area 3 is somewhat broken up into this area just north of M59, and then this one area over here. And this particular one, I might want to just draw to your attention. We do have and I'll zoom in. I guess maybe that's difficult. I'm looking at it on the screen, so I can see it fine, but as I just caught the monitor, it probably wasn't as clear. This area here, we currently have a concept plan that has not yet been submitted to the Planning Commission on this area. So there might be some discussion of holding off on this area for a little bit until we see where that concept plan goes. But the other areas we're looking at are north of M59, somewhat by Arena Drive. And then the last area is actually out right by Heartland Meadows. Between Heartland Meadows and Pleasant Valley is an area, and again, all of the individual property cards and the site map of all of those properties are included. So all in all, those are the 4 areas that were looked at as potential areas that could be changed on the future land use map. There still are other areas that were not included, and as you might recall from some of the plans that you'd seen in the concept plan for this Newberry development, there are apartment units there. We've had some discussion with Ramco about some of that area. they had proposed possibly using this northwest corner and maybe having some residential there. So there are some other areas that are open to potentially multifamily that are not necessarily designated as such on there. I've just tried to quickly go over that. I think you've heard that at the township, joint meeting with the Township Board, and I'd be happy to answer any questions about anything in particular on that. I don't know if you want to go through them one by one, or just kind of leave it open for discussion of the whole thing.
Well, it did come up, and we were talking about it, and then if we back up and mesh retail and residential, the retail market analysis came up because we were having developers ask us, would you consider turning this piece of property that isn't multifamily into multifamily? Ramco being one, and then the southeast corner of Heartland Road and 59. We were all on here when Ed Rose came through. So that kind of spurred all of that. That was part of what spurred all that to go. And the reason we held off on this was we wanted to see what that said, how much GC do we need? And then it really, if you go back and look at that residential analysis, I don't recall the exact same number, but it's like 500, you can handle 500 apartments here. And you're going to get over 300 of them in special planning area. So how much land do you want? So that was what started this whole ball rolling.
Can they build multifamily in the rural residential or recreational, the green area?
I think they can in that orange part of it, but I don't know that they can in the green. And we're not proposing any changes there.
Right, no, I just wanted
Yeah.
to make sure if we added, if you could,
Yeah.
the overall count, but it's sustained.
There was actually some interest at one time.
Well, even if we leave if we leave the orange, if we take all of this off and leave it, we're going to be way over the number that the residential market analysis was saying
Right.
we even needed. So that was kind of where this was all moving to. And we've actually had somebody else that we've talked to about another senior apartment housing project that is on the parcel that is currently dark blue, just west of the Park of Heritage.
It would be these three properties.
Right
There's
here.
two little ones and this bigger one go around it right here.
So we've had those people in twice now.
It's an interesting apartment complex. It's not your standard apartment complex. It's I'll call it a senior, it's not quite a care facility. These are fully independent people. They have to be of a certain age to go in there, and there's a common dining area for them, or they have their own kitchen. They can prepare and cook all their own meals right there. And then if they do need somebody to assist them, they can separately contract for that, and they have some companies that are there independently. So it's the market for that housing in the future, it seems to always be evolving and changing, and it's interesting to hear about that. And they've indicated to us that the people that would live there already live here. They're not bringing people in from outside. They feel that their customers, if you will, are right here currently. So
How about if we start at, well, I was going to start at 59 in Pleasant Valley there.
okay,
It's already a special development area around it, right, both sides of it, basically?
Well, the red and white is the brown and white, or the orange and white is the Heartland Meadows Park that we just approved the bus stop for.
So I guess if we look at our options to make it, what would we, I mean, we don't want single family there probably, right? I mean, is
Well,
it,
I don't know, you might, you might prefer that.
instead of making
know.
a big sprawl?
Well, what would be
Yeah.
wrong with some more single family possibly? I don't know. but you've got approximately 300 apartments sitting in the red and white stripe.
Right.
Yeah, that parcel is about 80 acres, so it easily could handle single family.
Well, you could,
Looks
yeah,
like there's a road there already. I don't know,
There's
driving.
homes,
Yeah.
there's homes there.
Lots.
Yeah, so we'd probably be disrupting the neighborhood then by doing that.
well, somebody comes in as a future, on the future, they probably buy the whole thing and going to rezone it
Yeah.
to whatever the future land use map is. Is that where that landscape company is?
I think so.
Yes.
Okay.
I was going to say, there's existing business there, but doesn't mean anything.
Probably doesn't have a lot of structures to it,
Well, but there's houses along, see how
further
that
down.
road-
Yeah.
All those are like, there's, I think, 2 or 3 houses in that.
We can look at it from an
Yeah.
aerial if
Yeah,
you
there's-
want.
He's got
There's
one
about-
on the main, like up in the corner, but then I think there's a house right there and then
Back
further
in
down
here.
here.
But you could consider some density of whatever the 2 yellows are on the north or south side of 59 also. If you go back to the future land use map, either that brighter yellow or that pale yellow, I mean, I'm not sure what they are off the top of my head. You can go to the key and look, but you could consider at least something single family. So is the discussion here on what you would change it to, or is the discussion just to say we would like to consider removal of this from?
Yeah, just to initiate this and we can have, move forward with future land use map amendment at a later time, and at that time, we could certainly, we would notice it, and then we could have discussion about what to move it to or make it to. This is more or less just to initiate an amendment to that future land use map.
So one of the things we need to keep in mind is what you mentioned before, which is special planning areas going to have significant multifamily construction in there. So do we want to have that set up right across basically across Pleasant Valley, or do we want to look at something else there?
I get it. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, and to me, it seems to me at least, a portion of that should be commercial to help service,
Well, you certainly could take the strip across the front, the 59 frontage,
yeah.
and make it red to match and go along with your special planning area commercial.
That's kind of where I was leaning towards that.
Mhm.
I'm not sure. It's almost like, I almost want to see, I mean, we're finally at a point where the actual special planning area after 20 years is going to start seeing something done.
Mhm.
So I am kind of concerned about this section, whether or not we want to keep it at multifamily at that level.
Well, when I helped look at this, I just thought that was a tremendous, first of all, we needed to get rid of some of it because we have way too much for what we want. And there's just a tremendous amount of density sitting right there at that intersection with the mobile home park
Well, if you,
and that. So I guess the question, do we want to run through them all first and then come back and say, what's your nod? Do you want to get rid of this or not? Maybe move on to the next one, and then we'll come back and
Sure.
talk about all 4 of them?
Okay.
I guess I'll just go
go
to
to the one that's immediately east or west,
over
On the
here.
north side?
yeah, north side. I've always questioned why that would be multifamily.
Well-
One is the elevation there it's almost all wetland.
And we found that out because we had meetings with Redwood after the thing next to Meyer wasn't going to work. And we're showing them these parcels. And they knew of that parcel, and they said, you can't put multifamily on that. It's too wet. We can't, it's just not going to
Right
work.
in the middle of the watershed.
Right. So that one may be obvious to maybe just carry down the yellow that you got at the end of the day.
Well, this is the ice arena here. And
Where was it again? Show me.
Right,
Right there.
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
And
he had problems putting in that.
He has water in his backyard.
I know.
so this is actually zoned commercial. If you looked at the zoning map, these two properties on either side of Arena Drive and then the ice arena itself are actually zoned commercial. If I show you the zoning map, just bear with me here. So you can see those are zoned commercial. I don't know, these are offices here on either side of Arena Drive down here, and I don't know what his plans are for these properties. The person that owns the ice arena also owns these other properties here. And he had mentioned to me he'd like to come in with some kind of a concept plan when he gets ready, because these are very difficult to market as commercial, he said. He just doesn't think there's really much commercial viability that far back. They're not visible from M59. So I don't know what his plans are. This is a Bella Vita, that's a memory care facility that's occupying the middle third of this property. They've expressed interest in possibly building a potential duplicate facility behind that here. And then this property has had similar requests, but none of them have moved forward. And that was largely because there was no water.
Well, it was largely because there was no water, but Redwood said you can't do it.
Yeah.
They were familiar with that piece. The lady that was here they'd been looking around the township, and she said that piece was just underwater. So, but you could future land use map, you could change the future land use on them to more align with what their current use is and be done. But, we could take it and align it with what the uses are right now, and then and do something with that piece that's too wet. Some larger acre residential, something similar to what's on the north or whatever, who knows?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Makes sense.
That is area 3, with the exception of this area right here. This doesn't show this little blue dot, almost implies there's maybe a little pond or something there. Almost half of this property is a wetland. And we've had discussions, the site plan review committee has met with people that are interested in developing the front portion of this as a planned development, and you'll probably see a concept plan for that come in soon. And when you calculate density of planned developments, you look to the future land use map to see what the category is and what the number of units are per acre on the future land use map. And this category is critical to helping them move forward with their project. And
I think you took this one off the list.
oh, is that off there now?
Yeah. Because the one left is across from the high school and then Clyde Road. This one's not even on the list anymore.
This is
There's nothing
area-
on the north side.
So you need to move up to the high school just north there, just to that orange right there.
So then these areas are almost already built out with homes on them.
Right.
It's very difficult to amass, when you have single-family homes on there, it's difficult to buy up enough to do an apartment complex or multifamily. It can happen, but becomes more difficult.
Yeah, I think that area is almost a no-brainer.
Right. I agree.
And then the last area is just up the road a little bit on Clyde and 23. And it kind of wraps around this. A lot of this is currently zoned commercial. This was an area that was targeted in the, when the retail market analysis was done of changing to get rid of some of the commercial up here. And then this is multifamily here.
My first thought was to eliminate it or change it, but if we do get a true R&D development, or some light industrial development, but mostly R&D, would we want that area, the multifamily, to support that area?
Well,
I mean, they might support each other. Okay.
yeah, one of the reasons we took this one off is first, we had to eliminate property first. We
Right.
had to get the number of parcels or the number of potential multifamily down, number one. Number two, what we learned out of talking with Redwood in our meetings was that apartments like to be closely located to the action. They like, the people living there want to be close to the stores and the restaurants. They're not looking to be out a couple miles because they want to be in, out, their life is convenience, and that was what they pitch. So if that in fact is true, that's never going to happen there. You're never going to find that up there. And the retail market analysis said you can't support commercial up somewhere anyways, you need to get rid of some of it. So it just seemed like the whole area would just flip. And then you'd probably just take that pale yellow and bring it up against the purple and call it the end of the day.
I seem to recall that when we were doing the master plan and land use map going on, what, I guess 16 years ago, sometime about that time, there's a guy, I think he's a lawyer that owns one of those parcels. And he came in and insisted that that remain.
Did he?
Yeah, I'm just going off memory though. It's
Yeah.
a long time ago.
Yeah.
I remember. He's probably long gone now, but anyway, just kind of keep that in mind, you know, some,
Yeah, well,
because I question that as well, when everything around it is CA,
it's all big acreage
big
stuff.
acreage, you know, and you're right. I mean, when it comes to multifamily or looking at apartment complexes, they want to have convenience. People come home.
Mhm.
So
So that
that's
was,
why you see over at Fenton, if you look over at the Fenton at Owen Road, almost all west of where the stores are is all multifamily.
yeah, and that really was what led to the conclusion of that piece, was there's never, even if we put a little red strip across there on, even on both sides of Clyde, it isn't going to have the availability of services that Redwood says apartments want. And so we learned a lot from them. I mean, we talked to them about this parcel as an option, but they don't even want to talk about it. So that was what led to the conclusion of at least bringing that one here and talking about it.
The apartment complex companies have also said they need municipal water. And I can't tell you how long we're off before water is there, but it will be several years.
So now we kind of went through them. So now what do you think? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with removing that from any of these areas here.
I mean, if you eliminate all of them, you still have far more, and
Right.
Troy would probably have to get the number of what you could build on the what's left, but it's a lot more than 500. Because there's still a lot of that burnt orange color on the map.
Does
Yeah,
that burnt orange allow for the construction of,
It's 8 units per acre, so,
like a mobile home park?
no.
no,
Okay. I didn't think-
no.
And one of the other areas with the retail market analysis was this area here that would become a second special planning area, which would hopefully open up the door to look at mixed use there. So there could be some, it's just hypothetical speaking, but there could potentially be some mixed use there, which may or may not include apartments there as well. So just from this area, and then the current special planning area, you could be well over the number of apartment units that could be, based on the residential market analysis, you'd be well over what the township could support. And I didn't even mention the senior one, and I don't even know if those ones were looked at as part of the, I'm guessing they were, but they're kind of slightly different apartments.
So are you saying that whatever we kind of decide or talk about, if we make a decision tonight, that we're going to actually initiate this change yet?
No.
Because we need to talk about where do we want to take
Yeah,
them.
so this is just to initiate moving forward with future land use. You guys have to kind of initiate that discussion, and then we can go ahead and set up, if you want, maybe another committee to look at putting together a proposal, and then we can move forward with it. But right now, this is basically the committee's recommendation back to the Planning Commission to discuss, and I guess the Planning Commission has to decide how, do they want to move forward with this or not, or what is it that the Planning Commission wants to do?
Or do you want to think about it and bring it back on the next agenda?
Yep, we could do that as well.
You know, if you want to, now that you've heard the verbiage around the thoughts that went into
You still need a
selecting.
motion, though, to get the initiation, to make. the change.
Eventually, because right now, nothing, it's not going anywhere, it's just discussion. But that doesn't have to be tonight. If you feel you want to think it over, and even if you want to be more formal in identifying what you think it should be, we can include that.
Yeah, I think the subcommittee idea is a pretty good idea, and come back to the commission with, some ideas, basically, some options, right? Do a little bit more studying on it.
I mean, is there a thought on any of the 4 areas that you would consider or would not consider changing? Does anybody feel strongly about any of them?
No.
There is no formal decision right now.
Right,
Yeah.
I agree. I'm not, we could eliminate all of them. I don't.
So maybe what we do is we can take the 4 and figure out what we would propose they be changed to, and then come back and do exactly what we've done tonight.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'll serve on that, and anybody else that would like to work on that, let Troy or I know,
Okay.
and we can put together some thoughts on those 4, and then we'll come back to the commission once we've got it for a further discussion.
Okay.
Sounds good. You can go back to that residential study.
Exactly.
Use that as the tool.
Right. So any more questions or thoughts on that?
All set.
Okay.
I'll move to initiate a future land use map update as outlined in this memorandum.
Okay.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion from Commissioner Newsom, second from Commissioner Voigt. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Okay, so we have call of the public, and we're not going to see anybody come forward. So we are to item 9, committee reports. Troy?
I just wanted to let you know, the Ordinance Review Committee just met. We are looking at an ordinance on the new 5G wireless. We've kind of got a draft ordinance. We're looking at a couple different areas on the historical village, if you will, maybe some standards that could apply to these wireless communication facilities in that area, as well as something I'm not entirely clear on. Some of these wireless communication things have generators with them, and maybe some standards that would identify what those generators or other equipment that might be on the ground, and how that would look and what standards could be applied to be safe, because we're talking about, these would all be in the right-of-way, so in the road right, they generally are affixed to street lights or traffic signal devices or utility poles that are already in the right-of-way. So that's moving forward. And then the last question I've got is I've been asked to ask you, the planning commissioners were given some tablets to use, and it looks like we've got to do some sort of updates on those things. I was asked, how often do you guys use those, and how much do you use those? That's kind of the question. Oh, there we go, we got one right there.
I know.
So I use mine very often.
Okay. So at some point with those updates, I think they all will have to be brought in, and we found that some of them updating, we've run into some problems with them. So we've now hired, or have, I think it's IT Right, to look at doing those updates. So the confusing thing is, not only do you have a password to get on there, but you have got a password for Microsoft, and I don't know what a lot of those passwords are. So anyway, that's all I've got.
Okay. So committee reports. Anybody, anything?
Nope.
All righty. Motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Newsom and Kalani, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Troy, I didn't catch that, but you were not on the agenda tonight.
Oh,
Yes, sir.
What I found,
Yes, small stuff.
yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's on the bottom.
one of them, my wife's a firefighter. So when I was faced with how do I keep firewood around, I thought, oh.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, well, you know, it was getting hard.
Yeah.